Bon, bah écoutez, en fait, il y avait une erreur dans le...
Actually, there was a mistake in the program. It's not just me, nor is it me and Simon. It's really, we're talking about teamwork here. And I always like to emphasize this. BIM is really the place for collaboration. So I'm very proud here to be here with this small but lovely part of our team. We work with the whole ecosystem here in Pomerleau. We have two BIM coordinators, Simon Brunet and Léo Daou. We have a project manager. For three other projects we're going to be presenting to you is Sylvain Lessard. And our client, which was the Montreal Airport. So you'll see pictures of all these people. And we have Pierre Saint-Onge, who's the program director at the Montreal Airport.
était qu'on implique les clients. Donc, je suis vraiment...
So I'm very glad to be here and thank you all for being here today with us. Innovation, BIM as an innovation vector for Pomerleau is something that I can tell you about. BIM per se is no longer perceived as being an innovation by us because it's become the normal everyday for most of our projects, especially our building projects. Today we are using BIM for civil projects, bridges, wharves, especially in the St. Lawrence, for example. We're using technologies such as Scanel, Radiate Virtual. There's a kiosk outside. There's a booth outside here where you can see what we've developed in-house as well. At Pomerleau, the BIM team is a standard bearer for innovation in the sense that there are several methods and processes that are innovative and that perform much better, such as that we adopt around BIM. So people from the BIM VDC team are more and more people on the innovation team, and the whole company benefits from this. And dare I say, all of our partners benefit, whether they're professionals, subcontractors, or specialized contractors, or clients. So that's why we called BIM an innovation vector for Pomerleau. Today, we're going to present the story of how BIM has developed over the last 6 years, not just at Pomerleau, but also how the requirements of clients and how their demands have, well, I could say, improved. How have they become more specific, and they've become more demanding as well. So let's begin with taking the plane from Atlanta after that impressive presentation by Daniel Barbeau, and let's land at the Montreal Airport. In 2013, we began to work on the international jetty, which was the extension of the airport. And now I'd like to turn the floor over to Sylvain, my colleague who worked as project manager of that project. Hello? Can you hear me? I've been working for Pomerleau for 15 years, and when I started with the extension of the International Jetty project at the airport in Montreal, my experience in use of 3D models in construction was limited to coordinating electromechanical equipment in mechanical rooms and heavy industrial projects. Essentially, the use was initiated by certain engineering departments to help design, or by contractors for prefabricating ducts or pipework, but rarely because a client was asking us to use 3D modeling. But Mr. Pierre Saint-Onge and Pomerleau wanted to use the additional planning tool for planning and coordinating. The 3D model was going to be transferred to specialized contractors and the construction team so as to apply the concepts. And the idea was to do virtual construction. The obligation to design in Revit was added. Certain contractors needed some help, but they got a lot of cooperation and were able to improve in time. Of course, if you have electromechanicals and technical rooms, we used the real dimensions of every piece of equipment. We had coordination sessions with specialized contractors with a visualization period in 3D. This made it possible to virtually look at the final product, but also to agree on how to order the work so that we could address the more complex sectors. As we use the model, we start to have a lot of ideas. Our team didn't have much experience in BIM applications, but the 3D model turned out to be an ideal tool to resolve a lot of complex planning issues. And this was not limited to electromechanicals. It was also for other specialties less familiar with BIM. The major complexity of the foundations of the building, designed over several levels, was really difficult for the various workers who had to do the formwork and the excavation, etc. But 3D visualization and 4D simulation was also able to help resolve a lot of differences of opinions and helped to sequence the activity so that we didn't have downtime. Contractors were unanimous. Use of the model was largely a large cause of the successful completion of this critical part of the work and in a timely fashion. But other people had equipment installed in landfill. We had electrical, drainage facilities, and there was a lot of conflict amongst the structure and the equipment. So we had to have value-added and optimization sessions. We had 3D to help engineering make the necessary changes in time. The costs of these modifications were minimal, and the scheduling was not affected. Don't forget, work had already been started and was moving ahead very quickly when we discovered these problems. Here you see an idea of the various conflicts that there could have been. We have all kinds of problems with the drainage and where the electrical equipment is going to go, etc. Then we had a lot of fire protection components that had to be integrated into the steel structure to offset the lack of space. This was done with the cooperation of specialized contractors and consultants. Coordinating from the model made it possible to confirm what was needed to be done and where, but there were also we avoided having a lot of ductwork go through the structures, thus avoiding a lot of problems. And now I'd like to turn the floor over to Simon Brunet, who was the BIM coordinator for the Place Belle project in Laval.
Bonjour. Donc,
I'd like to tell you about the Belle project. I worked with Sylvain on the extension of the International Jetty project, but as he mentioned to you, we started in the process with BIM when design was almost complete. So we started fairly late in the process, and we decided from that experience that we would change that with future projects. So in 2014, we decided to integrate BIM right from the start of the project. So as soon as we started having the calls for tender. So in the preliminary phases, we would get client documents, BFDs, information. We prepared the whole project using BIM right from the beginning. And that's a trend that's continued since then. We did win that project, and we continue to use BIM throughout the project. So I'd like to give you a few illustrations where we were able to be innovative with the Place Belle project. So let's start with excavation. Right from the beginning of the project, in other words, 2014, this was a design-build project. So we were starting design, but at the same time, we were doing excavation. So there was a large and changing quantity of information about the foundations. So we decided to use BIM to do a daily tracking. Really, this was daily to see what was happening in terms of foundations. So we were able to catch 100% of the changes, and there were changes every single day. So here you see excavation and GPS. Why GPS? Well, because as you can see, we created a 3D model of the excavation, and then we transferred it into computers which were used by the excavators. So they could see exactly what they were digging in. They could see where the excavation limits were. We really optimized the process, even at the excavation level. So this is the work that was done. And in addition, we could optimize the location of the building on the land and all of the methods used in the future for excavation. So we saved a lot of money, and we were also able to respect our schedule. Here you see some images of the excavation. On the upper right, you see what the people had in their excavators. They had GPSs, and you can see their computers. On the left, you see the actual excavation model, which is totally virtual, and it shows the foundations. PFT and estimates. As I said right from the beginning, we integrated BIM right from the very beginning of the call for tenders. So we wanted to manage our clients' technical and functional program. So we knew what square footage we were looking at, what parts we were looking for. We integrated it all into the BIM model, and we managed it very, very tightly. Every week we revised it, and we could see the colors, so we could really track in a simple but highly efficient manner. We were able to see everything that was changing and happening in the design stage. We used it for the tendering process, but also during design. So we could do the follow-up with our professionals of parts, of square footage, and the clients got the same reports that we did, and we could exchange information. We could talk about whether this respected their requirements or where we needed to make corrections. So here you see a few examples. The information is different, so there are 2D plans, but with information that was implemented in a 3D model. And so you can track this every day and every week, depending on how design is moving. There's a 3D scan. When we came in to look at the stands in the Place Bell Amphitheater, I think there was a Spanish company that was taking care of this, and there was a manufacturer who was somewhere else in the world. So we did the 3D scan to be sure that when they delivered their product, it was really going to be exactly what we needed, and it was going to fit perfectly. And so we have a 3D scan and there are even documents that you could see. You see what we had at the time, and we wanted to be sure that the quality of what was being built respected the manufacturing requirements. Multidisciplinary coordination. A lot of people talked about this. Sylvain talked about it. It's something that we began once we had the airport experience. We integrated this into our process. I think Ivanka talked about it as well. It's not really an innovation anymore. But what we did do with coordination was to move it forward with our clients. I'll give you a very quick example. We set out an audit process with our client, but it's virtual. So we essentially covered 100% of the project over 3 different sessions. I think 3 full days. We sat down and we basically audited absolutely every part of the building. They had their professionals team. We had our professionals, our contractors sometimes. And we checked everything. We looked at all the comments, all the measurements. We took note of everything. And this way, we were able to set up a list of items that had to be corrected. So that exercise was last year. So it was a year or a year and a half before delivery. So we had a list of about 500 corrections we had to make. We called it the virtual building delivery. So it was virtual taking possession of the building. So with the technical people, the marketing people, we got 100% of their comments, and they were able to check their whole building, all the requirements that were even above and beyond the functional and technical program that our client had. We were able to integrate them in our design and make all the necessary corrections. the corrections that they asked for. So multidisciplinary coordination, yes, but we try to push it even further so we can use the tool for that. And now I'd like to turn the floor over to Liu. So to continue in the same vein, we had a chance to increase our use of BIM in an airport extension. Okay, so now it's 2015, and the Montreal airport, Pomerleau got the mandate to completely redo the check-in counters for the airline companies. What was unique was that we had to add a baggage conveyor that was 2 levels, and it was already in a crowded area, very limited space. And this had to be done in a busy airport without disturbing the travelers or the comings and goings of the airlines and the equipment. So often there were problems because of the complexity of integrating the conveyors. So right from the beginning, the Montreal Airport said that it wanted to have a 3D model, both for the design and the build of the actual project. So they encouraged us to use BIM. This was the first time, but we already had BIM expertise, which had improved a lot over 2 years. The number of specialized contractors using BIM has increased considerably over those 2 years. So when we had a call for tenders, we had many more who were responding because it was a requirement of our tender. So adding the baggage conveyors through old and complex structural elements and a lot of electromechanical facilities was, as you see modeled here, was very complex. I'll just explain. First of all, the idea was to deal with an existing structure because there were 2 conveyors going down from level 2 to level 1, and then they turn around in an operational sector that is very narrow, and there are a lot of existing ducts. So there was existing complexity, plus there was new highly specialized equipment. And it was an old structure that was pretty complicated as well. The conveyors had to be ordered in advance because delivery time was long. They came from Europe. So we modeled the clearances required around the conveyor belts for baggage, maintenance, and operations. And we created volumes. You could see in light blue, these are clearance areas for the conveyors for baggage and operations and maintenance. We did this so that we could check to see whether there was going to be any potential interference after construction. And if there was because if there was going to be any interference after construction, it would be problematic. We had to be sure that everyone knew how to build what needed to be built. And some of the new conveyors had to go above a public passage that had to remain operational. And it was done as visualized. There was nothing unexpected and nothing that needed to be changed. Here you see on the right the public sector where people are picking up their luggage. And on the left, it's where the luggage carts are there. And then you have the carousels. And closer to the ceiling, you see the conveyor belts, the new ones. In the project, there were several related projects. And they were all happening around the Zone 1 area, the major baggage conveyor room. And they were very close to our project, so we had to ensure coordination with them. So all of this work had to be done while the airport was running, and they had to be as invisible as possible. A lot of the work had to be done on platforms that were erected above where passengers were actually walking. Oh, someone has to click play, please. There's an AV. So there was a lot of work being done on platforms above the travelers, and there were changes throughout the construction. It's very complex. All of this was modeled and presented to Aéroport de Montréal for approval before implementation. They were integrated into the 4D model. What you can see here in the animation. Having these virtual phases made it possible to understand when there were key planning sessions. Here you see the phasing at the various levels of the project zone. This is to give you an idea of the kind of work that needed to be done in time, and not only tell the client about this, but also to be able to explain this to the airlines. So these are the platforms. So now it's 2016. And for phase 2, the design had started in 2016. So for phase 2, ADM required that there be a BIM coordinator responsible for following up the various design models to be involved even earlier in the project. In other words, right from the beginning of the design. Aéroport de Montréal is much more interested in BIM than they used to be. For phase 2, the work areas are even closer to the crux of airport operation activities. And when they come close to the peak periods of the year, it's even more crucial. There's all kinds of temporary possibilities presented to the airport using virtual reality so that the construction can take place and respect operations and vice versa. The main user were seeing that their workspace was going to be changed considerably by work, expressed a lot of concerns in terms of the available space for passenger check-in, and the people in charge did a virtual visit, commonly called a walkthrough, and looked at the space that would be available during the construction period. And if you're interested, as Ivanka said, in our booth, you can actually take a look and do a walkthrough of the project because it's not yet built. It's at the very beginning of the construction phase right now. As Ivanka said earlier, BIM is a vector for innovation. Our long-term vision is not just to use BIM, but to really push it to another level, push all available tools to another level, so as to offer a service which closes the loop with BIM, not just in feasibility and design phase and build phase, but through the entire life cycle of building operations and even up to decommissioning. And we're always on the lookout for new technology and new ways of doing things so that we can manage better and work better. For phase 2 of the airport extension, we're going to be introducing lean construction. We're going to be integrating buy-in from contractors and subcontractors, and we're going to continue to use 4D and virtual reality. So I just want to go back to this slide. Not only is it an excellent communications tool for the project that's going to be built, but also to illustrate all the temporary facilities that have to be built over the course of the project's life. It's also useful to convey the details of the design and challenges of the design during meetings, and to be able to review and revise construction with consultants so that we can have a final walkthrough as well with subcontractors when there's a coordinating zone and it's finished. In closing, there TQZ has built models, but as built and as maintained are different concepts for operating the buildings. BIM is a concept. It's great to have a 3D model, but you have to have good BIM. There's good BIM and bad BIM. Just because you have a pretty model that's all shiny, it doesn't make it right. So you have to pay attention to it. So I'd just like to turn the floor back over to Pierre. Hi, I'm happy to be here this afternoon to give you a client's perspective on this adventure of BIM. If you go back to 2012, for that international jetty extension project, that project was required because of the increasing number of travelers coming through the airport. In recent years, passenger traffic has been growing by 5 to 6% per year. So this has been stressing our facilities. So if we go back to 2012, we had the project to increase the size, and we had all kinds of barriers, and we had buses, we had all kinds of things that had to be done. It was the biggest project since cross-border traffic was introduced. And when we did the cross-border area, there were a lot of cost overruns. We wanted to reduce our risk of having this happen. Our engineering director, Mr. Boilard, at the time, had heard me talk about BIM technology. And so we said, okay, let's try it. Why not? It'll be an exploratory project. So we asked all our professionals. Everybody said, yes, 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 no problem. We are able to work with BIM. So we started off on the great adventure that way. We hired our construction manager, Pomerleau, and I would say the design was pretty much over. But we didn't really know what we were going to do with the project. We said, okay, we'll do the design, and we were hoping to be able to deliver the project on time and on budget. And that was what was good for us. It wasn't really the construction per se, but it was the product, because we needed the product. When the Pomerleau team came, they want to take it further. We added into the contractor's contract the obligation to coordinate and to work in BIM. And I think that really paid off, because the final result was that that project came in 4 months earlier than planned. So September 2016 it was the date, and we got it for May 2016, and the summer is very busy, so we were very pleased about that. And the other very important consideration was budget-wise. It came in at 95% of the authorized budget, so we were well within our budget, which we were very happy about. Which leads me to talk to you about changes in using BIM. From 2012, it was simply an idea. Okay, let's explore what it can do. Today, as Sylvain said, we've had 2 other projects, phases 1 and 2, of redoing the check-in areas. Now BIM has become absolutely essential. Any project that has any complexity at all has to be designed and built with BIM. I think that's essentially what I wanted to say. So we're very pleased.
Merci beaucoup à toute l'équipe.
Thank you very much to all the members of the team, and even more to our clients. We do need clients, or customers rather, like Montreal Airport, Quebec Airport, SQE, XUI, because industry is starting to know more about this BIM approach. Now, last conclusion, innovation at Pomerleau goes on through our research department. We've been working with EDS for 4 years in our research department at Pomerleau, and we've just put in place a research also department with Polytechnique at University of Montreal.
Chair.
And his second chair will deal more with the governance of the project. And last sentence, BIM works really better when you are in a collaborative mode of project execution. Design, build, integrated project delivery, etc. And we hope that in the future we will see more of this type of projects in Quebec and in Canada. Thank you very much.